Hi again. William Schnell's book, 30 Years Watchtower Slave, Chapter 9, From Zest to Disgust. And now he's reached the subhead, We Fish in Troubled Waters, talking about the Weimar Republic during these years of unrest in the late 20s and early 30s as the Nazi state began to emerge. In the Germany of the Weimar Republic, everything was going from bad to worse. Democratic processes brought into being by the terms of the Versailles Treaty were repugnant to the Germans because they considered the democratic process in the Weimar Republic as a symbol of their defeat. Unemployment was rampant, and hope for better times was fading everywhere. The masses were driven about like lost sheep. Communism on the left claimed millions. The Nazis on the right were growing fast, while the moderate centrum was shrinking. In the middle, however, were millions who wanted a spiritual and peaceful way of life, and these were the people we were after. We were fishing in the troubled waters of the German population. Appearing to them as God's organization, powerful, unafraid of opposition, actually bearding the lion in his own den, so to speak, we easily became their champions. If events had not transpired to put the Hitler movement into control, Germany might have become the first Jehovah's Witness state of God's organization. The Nazis and the communists realized this and began really to oppose us as the third force, even though our work in Germany came to a sudden and violent end with the advent of the Nazi movement and government. We in Germany had laid for Brooklyn the pattern and the know-how. This sort of thing could be done in America when the time should be ripe. And this subhead is We Go In for Mass Production. Our factory in Magdeburg had by this time been completed, and the Watchtower Society sent to us from Brooklyn an expert on the Taylor system to teach us this mass production system. Several of us, using stopwatches, began to clock and time the movements of the personnel. We found that some brethren tired after 4 hours of making certain movements, for instance, horizontal, whereas if they were put into a job where the movement was perpendicular, they could keep producing all day without let-up. We soon began shifting the force in accordance with aptitude. But this created a furor amidst the brethren. We made short shrift of complainers and asked them to leave us as fast as they began voicing opposition. New workers came in gladly from the ever-increasing reservoir of new converts who were so much more eager than the older ones, and who were much easier to train and much more amenable to instructions. At that time, too, we were taught the value of cost figuring. As a result, we succeeded in producing our 100 Reichsmark book for but 20 pfennigs, which was pfennings, I think he spells it here, pfennings, which were better even than the Brooklyn factory's cost of a 35-cent book for 4 cents. This left us huge margins of profit since our distribution costs were nil. All publishers paid their own expenses in the field during their book selling during their spare time. We did have colporteurs and pioneers who got the books for 20 pfennings and kept the 80 pfennig difference. In America, the 35-cent book was given to pioneers for 8 cents at the time. We were not allowed to make public our financial statements, lest we make improper publicity. Had we done that, our opposition would have soon caught on to the basic purpose of the worldwide witnessing campaign. In fact, whenever large capital expenditures were made, and our plants were constantly expanding, we did not use accumulated funds. Instead, we borrowed from the brethren on the basis of issued bonds. This same principle was used in Brooklyn. This procedure eliminated unnecessary questions regarding our financial statements and gave the appearance that we were a financially poor organization. Our factory became so efficient and our leadership and organization was so successful that Brooklyn soon put us in charge of Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, and Austria, and we were named printers for the Scandinavian countries. In Poland, they were binding the booklet Harp of God with the use of nails instead of glue, and we soon supplied them with real Polish books. It is my considered opinion that the Watchtower religion would have emerged as the top religion of Europe if its forward march had not been stopped by World War II in 1939. As it is now, unless drastic measures are undertaken by the peoples of the world, they might easily come in as the top religion of the USA, first seconded by Africa, followed by South America, and then last Europe and Asia. Of course, this is from the perspective of 1954, when they were publicizing themselves as the world's fastest growing religion. The ratio of increase is about 10 times as rapid right now in the USA as it was in Germany just before World War II. The small period of delay of the intervening war years is of little consequence when evaluated in terms of the 1,000 years during which the theocracy expects to operate. Not only did Brooklyn gain valuable data from our ascendancy in Germany from 1919 to 1932, but the war years also proved to be invaluable years for conditioning. As I will show, they brought to flower the Watchtower College of Gilead in South Lansing, New York. And the world focus of this movement, this Bible school, is to Jehovah's Witnesses what Eton, Cambridge, and Oxford have been to English diplomacy and statesmanship. Much of what was learned in Germany will appear in my account of my slavery in the USA as a Jehovah's Witness. In Germany, we came close to turning a whole nation to become Jehovah's Witnesses. The next time, in some other country, that may become a fact. And this subhead is, I get into trouble. Accustomed to speaking my mind, I soon got into trouble in Bethel. Believing in my right to express my opinions, I soon learned that if anyone wanted to get on, he had to keep his opinions to himself. I gradually learned to say very little in answer to questions at the Bethel dinner table. I just rattled off the current organization jargon, using Watchtower published slogans like great privilege, etc. I slowly began to hate myself for it, and from conversation with others I discovered that many others did too. Then, in late 1926, I was called on the carpet, and since none of us were smokers, we called it getting a cigar, and was given a good dressing down for shielding a number of brethren who did not want to sign an arbitrary pledge in order to remain in Bethel. It was my responsibility to get all to sign, and I had failed to report the names of those having conscientious objections regarding the matter. I was able to keep that quiet for more than a year when one of the many Watchtower spies with which the Bethel family was interspersed found out about it. The director shouted, "I know everything you do, whether in the office or out in the field or in the Kingdom Hall." In fact, I suspect he also thought he knew what we were thinking. I learned then that while secular governments allowed their citizens to claim conscientious objections to certain things, the Watchtower Society certainly did not grant this privilege to members of the Bethel family. Cadaver Gehorsam, or corpse-like obedience, was still the policy. If amidst God's organization, even today, you dare to voice conscientious objections to anything the Society of Brooklyn wants or teaches, you automatically become an evil servant and are summarily condemned. No mercy, no leniency, no respecting of a person's convictions are allowed or permitted. If it had not been for the fact that I was a good lad, otherwise, being in the forefront of the work, I would have been condemned and dismissed for shielding the brethren. It was a warning I never forgot. Next time is unrest at Bethel. I'll put in a link to what the Watchtower did with Nelson Barber, to whom they owed so much for their Russellite and later Rutherfordite doctrines. Nelson Barber, by 1917, in the book The Finished Mystery, is branded as the evil servant. See you next time.